Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Hi, friends. Welcome. I hope this finds you in good health and secure. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Help support and grow this Sangha, our worldwide connection with one another, to support the practice, the correct practice of the Lotus Sutra teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha through the elucidations, the profound understandings and doctrines of Nichiren, our Bodhisattva, our mentor, right? The man who he exhorts us to emulate his own efforts, not least of which because he's surrounded by Buddhists, but Buddhists who they've gone astray for their own, either because they don't know any better, because they've been misled, because of tradition, because of their own greed, politics, whatever the reason. To be Buddhist and to practice other sutras and so forth, as Nichiren will be talking about here, isn't the greatest flaw. The flaw is in engaging in rhetoric and in teachings specifically in opposition to, I'll say it that way, even ignoring his opposition to the teachings of Shakyamuni's Lotus Sutra. And these other sects and schools and so forth, and even schools of claiming to be Nichiren's doctrine, follow agendas that are counter to the. If you just read and study the words of Nichiren and Shakyamuni, it's just, as Nichiren might say today, it's blindingly obvious. And so if you're deviating from that, this is what's crushing your practice, your resonance with the engine of life. So, let's see how Nichiren talks about this. He's going to continue, of course, as he has so far. We're still in the opening of the eyes letter, Gosho treatise. And we can see why he calls it the opening of the eyes, right? Because this is Renge. This is the opening of the eyes, the Gohonzon, the mind going, oh, I get it. Right? The opening of the Buddha eye, if you will. Chen Quan of the Flower Garland School wrote a commentary on the Flower Garland Sutra in which he compared the Flower Garland and the Lotus Sutras and seems to have declared that the Lotus Sutra is an expedient means. In other words, it's a quick way to understand, but it ain't it. But later he wrote, quote, the Tendai school defines this teaching of the 3,000 realms in a single thought moment of life as the truth, which we've already discussed, I've already discussed, that recognition of 3,000 realms in each moment, thought moment, however brief you could measure that, that is the Renge. That is the aha. That is Gohonzon. The doctrines of my own school on matters of principle do not disagree in any way with those of the Tendai school, end quote. Oh, really? From this it would appear, would it not, that he regretted and reversed his earlier pronouncement, because Tendai was all about the Lotus Sutra. That is, Tendai is Lotus school Buddhism practice. So for Chen Quan of the Flower Garland School to at first say that the lotus is an expedient means, but later say, well, what I'm trying to teach with the flower garland is in concert with what Tendai is teaching, this critical insight. And that critical insight comes from the Lotus Sutra, does it not? So Nichiren continues. Kobo is a similar example. It's like these teachers, they knew it. Why they didn't commit? That's the conundrum, yeah? Kobo is a similar example. If one has no mirror, here Nichiren's use of the analogy of a mirror, right? Think mandala. How do you see your own environment, your place, your interaction with your environment most directly is in a mirror. If one has no mirror, one cannot see one's own face. And if one has no opponents, one cannot learn of one's own errors. We're all teachers to one another, yeah? The scholars of the true word and other various schools were unaware of their errors, just going happily along, practicing whatever they were told to practice. But after they were fortunate enough to encounter the great teacher Dengyo, they became conscious of the mistakes of their own particular schools, right? Dengyo, once again, over and over again in Buddhism, somebody gets it and says, hey, everyone, look what it says here. Doesn't this blow apart? I don't know where you got these ideas or who invented them, but they're false. Look, it's really obvious. Again, blindingly obvious. Right? How many times has this happened in the history of Buddhism? Shakyamuni's teachings were quite clear. Right? When we first come to Buddhism, we think, oh man, all this flowery language and these personages and these stories, yikes, I'll never understand it. But if you persevere, there are very basic, clear truths that they keep coming up, yeah? And so that's what's happening here over time. Certain scholars are going, wait a minute, what is everybody doing? No. Look, it's quite clear. That's why these public debates were so important, right? Because when you've got quite a large audience, an important audience, everyone's important in the audience, but you know what I mean, imperial witnesses, you can't disguise the truth. If you can try. The various Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and heavenly and human beings described in the sutras that precede the Lotus may seem to have gained enlightenment through the particular sutras in which they appear, right? There's always a goal in learning. There's no denial of that. You're not just idly occupying, twiddling your thumbs. There must be a reason. There must be a goal, right? What is the objective of this practice? What are we trying to attain? Right? So every sutra has that design, otherwise why bother doing it, yeah? But in fact, they attained enlightenment only through the Lotus Sutra. The general vow taken by Shakyamuni and the other Buddhas to save countless living beings finds fulfillment through the Lotus Sutra, the Myoho Renge Kyo. That is the meaning of the passage of the sutra that states that the vow, quote, has now been fulfilled, end quote. Right? That's a direct quote from the Lotus Sutra, the Myoho Renge-kyo. Right? He talks about how for 40 some years he's not given the full truth, this is how you do it for yourself. I've been leading you here, but now bump it up. No, there's Shariputra, there are not three ways, there are not two ways, there is the one way, this one vehicle. Do it for yourself. Invoke Buddha-ness now. The vow that I've made to lead all people to enlightenment, all sentient beings, has now been fulfilled. This is the teaching, Myoho Renge-kyo. Shakyamuni's words, right? In view of these facts, I have confidence that the devotees of the flower garland and the followers of the flower garland, meditation, Mahavarachana, and the other sutras will undoubtedly be protected by the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and heavenly beings of the respective sutras they uphold. Right? They're students of Buddhism. They're extending, developing their capacity, their insight. It's all good. But, here's the big but, to quote Pee Wee Herman. If the votaries of the Mahavarachana, meditation, and other sutras should set themselves up as opposition of the votary of the Lotus Sutra, if those who propagate those sutras see themselves, comport themselves, spread opinions that hold the value and the practice, and those who support and propagate the Lotus Sutra as other, as less than, as inferior, then they are actually enemies of enlightenment. And therefore, the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and heavenly beings will abandon them and will protect the votary of the Lotus Sutra. That's a harsh pronouncement, but in light of the sutras, it's obvious, isn't it? It's not something Nichiren is wishing upon people. He's saying, look, if you continually pursue your path in spite of, or against, or around, or in some way denying the ultimate truth of the Lotus Sutra, then this is what you're bringing upon your own head. It's like the case of the filial son whose father opposes the ruler of the kingdom. The son will abandon his father and support the ruler, for to do so is the height of filial piety. Right? You might not think so. You might say, well, he's abandoning his father. He's not pious. He's not pious of his filial connection. But he's supplanting his father's illness of thought and behavior and supporting his ancestry, his family name, therefore his father, with the ruler. He's hopscotching over him, but he's not denying him. He's simply not allowing his lineage, his ancestry, to end with his deluded father. So it is piety. That's a big thing back then, too. Not so important these days. Maybe it should be. The same thing applies to Buddhism, Nichiren says. The Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and the 10 demon daughters described in the Lotus Sutra will not fail to lend their protection to Nichiren. They'll support that I'm being a votary of the Lotus Sutra. They'll protect me. They'll afford me opportunities to escape what otherwise might be really disastrous for me because I perceive correctly, and all my fervent wish as Nichiren is simply to do this correctly, because to not do it correctly is to miss the boat entirely. So it must be done correctly. It must be propagated correctly. Not because I say so, but because 3,000 years of history and documentation says so. And in addition, the Buddhas of the Six Directions and the 25 Bodhisattvas of the Pure Land School, the 1,200 honored ones of the True Word School, and the various honored ones and benevolent guardian deities of the seven schools are also certain to protect me, Nichiren, because all of them are embodiments, personages of Shakyamuni's teaching. I'm not denying their validity, right? By being a votary of the Lotus Sutra. The Lotus Sutra is the king of sutras. It is the ultimate goal of all these other teachings. So by practicing this ultimate teaching, I'm validating all those earlier teachings. I'm not cutting them off. They're simply irrelevant, though, now in this day. Once we have this, Myoho Renge Kyo, they're no longer necessary, though they might be useful in study to get you back to Lotus Sutra. They never stand as options to the Lotus Sutra. They are stepping stones, just like learning math or language. You need to learn the alphabet. You need to learn how to make words, construct sentences, right? Writing a book doesn't mean you can annihilate language. The book is the synthesis of everything you've learned in the past. It is the goal of learning language to be able to effectively communicate ideas. Right? I, Nichiren, he continues, think as follows. The forces, the powers, the gods of the sun and moon and the other deities were present in the 2 places and 3 assemblies when the Lotus Sutra was preached. If a votary of the Lotus Sutra should appear, then, like iron drawn to a magnet, or the reflection of the moon appearing in the water, they will instantly come forth to take on his sufferings for him and thereby fulfill the vow that they made in the presence of the Buddha, in the story of the sutra, yeah? But they have yet to come and inquire of my well-being. Nichiren's lamenting a bit that still suffering. Well, yeah, but you're alive, Nichiren. Anyway. Does this mean that I'm not the votary of the Lotus Sutra? Right? So he's expressing the doubts really not of, he has doubts. He's expressed that to us before. But he's really expressing the doubts of those followers of his who say, well, if Nichiren's so right, then, why are they trying to kill him? Valid question, yeah? But as I noted earlier, they haven't succeeded. Nonetheless. If that is so, if I'm not the votary, then I must examine the text of the sutra once more in the light of my conduct and see where I might be at fault. Maybe I'm not totally right. Maybe I'm right in principle, but my actions aren't upholding that. Let's take a look. Now he goes into that question and answer way to teach, right? Question. What eye of wisdom allows you to perceive that the Nembutsu, Zen, and other schools of our time are the enemies of the Lotus Sutra and evil companions who are ready to mislead all people? Right? Bad teachers. We have many today, so it's not foreign to us. We understand. Not just of other sects like Amida, Nembutsu, Zen, True Word, Hinayana, right? They all exist today. So the question is, what piercing wisdom, on what do you, Nichiren, base this claim that they're all bad teachers, they're evil friends, they're misleading us, they're taking us away from the essential teaching of the Lotus Sutra? On what do you base that statement? Nichiren's answer: I do not state personal opinions. See, this is the first thing to realize about Nichiren, is all of his railing, all of his pointing at deficiencies or misconduct, or Nichiren's not making those pronouncements from an egotistical point of view. I, Nichiren, am better than you. Never do we see that in his writings. He incessantly quotes sutras, the Lotus, and many others, their own sutras, as well as commentaries of their own teachers and patriarchs. And, of course, Shakyamuni, right? This is what Nichiren does. He's having this public debate constantly. Look, here are the facts. You can argue with me if you want, but here are the facts. I do not state personal opinions, but merely hold up the mirror of the sutras and commentaries so that the slanderers of the law may see their ugly faces reflected there and perceive their errors. Look for yourself. Truly, not with your mind of manipulation, but look at what the words say. Really understand Shakyamuni's words and see if you don't agree. But if they are incurably blind, they don't want to hear it, they don't want to see, it's beyond my power. Right? Me, Nichiren. All I'm doing is pointing to 3,000-year-old evidence. Fight with that. Don't fight with me. I'm just pointing at it out. In the Treasure Tower chapter, in the 4th volume of the Lotus Sutra, we read, quote, at that time, many treasures Buddha offered half of his seat in the treasure tower to Shakyamuni Buddha. At that time, the members of the Great Assembly saw the two thus come ones seated cross-legged on the lion's seat in the Tower of the Seven Treasures. The seven treasures. And in the loud voice, he, Shakyamuni Buddha, addressed all the four kinds of believers, saying, who is capable of broadly preaching the Lotus Sutra of the wonderful law in this Saha world? Now is the time to do so. For before long, the thus come one will enter nirvana. I'm out of here, so. The Buddha wishes to entrust this Lotus Sutra to someone so that it may be preserved, end quote. This is directly from the Lotus Sutra, right? This is the first pronouncement of the Buddha. Shakyamuni, obviously, but the pronouncement is from the standpoint of Buddha-ness. Who's going to take this mantle? Who's going to run with it? Is everyone going to get involved in rituals and plays and learning and yeah. But ultimately, this experience, this treasure tower, this amazing awakening, this Renge, who's going to take responsibility for this amazing, total, pure experience and make it their work to lead people to it so that they too can experience it? Who's going to do that? Again, the chapter reads, quote, "At that time the world-honored one, wishing to state his meaning once more, spoke in verse form, saying, quote, 'This holy Lord, this honored one, world-honored one, though he passed into extinction long ago, still seats himself in the treasure tower, coming here for the sake of the law.'" Not the person, the law, the awakening. "You people, why then do you not also strive for the sake of the law, the truth, the actual fact of living life? In addition, these emanations of my body, Buddhas in immeasurable numbers like the Ganges sands have come, desiring to hear this truth, this law. Each has abandoned his wonderful land, as well as his host of disciples, the heavenly and human beings, dragons and spirits, and all the offerings they give him, and has come to this place on purpose to make certain that the law will long endure. As though a great wind were tossing the branches of small trees. Through this expedient means, in other words, those previous sutras, they were personages of all those earlier steps of learning and capacity. They've all come together because this is the goal. They make certain that the law will long endure. So as I say, Buddha says, to the great assembly, after I have passed into extinction as Shakyamuni, who can guard and uphold, read and recite this sutra, this Myoho Renge Kyo? Now, in the presence of the Buddha, let him come forward and speak his vow, end quote. Right? This is the second proclamation of the Buddha. The passage continues, quote, "The thus come one many treasures, I myself, and these emanation Buddhas who have gathered here, all aspects of all my teachings, everything I've taught for my entire life, right now, under the auspices of Myoho Renge Kyo, the ultimate goal. Here, surely know this is our aim, our objective." I'm calling out all of those translators who want to use the word object. That's not correct. In English, the word object is a noun. That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about this experience of enlightenment. That's not a noun. It's a verb. It's something that's happening moment to moment, constantly. This is a critical mistake made in everything I've read in English language. I don't know every other language, so it may not be so in other languages. I don't know. If you know, let me know. "All you good men, each of you must consider carefully." This is still Shakyamuni Buddha talking, yeah? "This is a difficult matter. It is proper you should make a great vow, a great commitment." What is a vow? A vow isn't something you just make pretty words and bow in a certain way to make somebody else happy or to impress the group. It's something you take deeply, cellularly personal responsibility for. Right? It's not obedience to anything outside of yourself. If anything, it's about extreme obedience to your own truth. And your seeking of that truth and your supporting of that truth, lest you foul it. Right? That should disgust you, that you would do something that would not honor this vow. The other sutras number as many as the Ganges sands. This is still Shakyamuni talking about his own teachings, right? Because every day for over 40 years, He expounded the same sermon with little changes and addresses to the people he was talking to. The verse section is probably the core of his teaching, but all of the other around it is constructed for the audience, you know? The other sutras number as many as the Ganges sands, but though you expound those sutras, that is not worth regarding as difficult. If you were to seize Mount Sumeru, right, Mount Everest, and fling it far off to the measureless Buddha lands, that too would not be difficult. Okay. But if after the Buddha has entered extinction in the time of evil, or in the latter age, when there's no actual embodiment of Buddha walking the world to be an inspiration, right? You can preach this sutra. That will be difficult indeed. Because you'll have to preach, you'll have to tell people, you'll have to inspire people on your own merit. All the more reason that you can't be dissuaded or mixed up or misled, right? You have to teach the teachings clearly, because only that will provide, beyond you, the human, the inspiration, the power to change people's lives, because they're changing their lives. They're changing their lives based on the law, the truth that you share with them. You're not changing their lives. You're giving them the opportunity to do it for themselves. This is a critical understanding. Because, first of all, it breaks the ego. The ego cannot be involved in this. The moment that it is, it falls apart. Because then these people who listen to you are following you rather than the teaching. Big mistake. You missed it. You will not succeed. Your success will be hollow if you have any. You will be miserable. You will not experience Renge. One can load dry grass on his back and enter the fire without being burned. That would not be difficult. But after I have passed into extinction, if one embraces this sutra and expounds it to even one person, that will be difficult indeed. So you don't have to worry about being, Michael Jackson. You don't have to influence the world. Just understand deeply what it is to awaken and inspire one other person. Keep them on track. Keep them from being attracted by every little bauble and oh, wow, this is great. Have you ever heard of this? This is really cool too. Oh yeah, I hear that all the time. No, that's not really cool. Stay on track. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Chant. No, don't put that next to your Butsudan. No, stop looking at other things. Oh, I saw this, three-headed bald guy, woman thing in this, I was reading a book about some esoteric boo-boo, blah-blah, blah, blah, blah. Shut up! Why are you looking there? Why is your mind so scattered? Stay focused. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. That's all. That's it. People do this all the time. Distractions. Oh, look over here. Wow, isn't that a cool picture? You know what dragons are? It can be so demoralizing, right? But this is what people do. Stay on track. That's why Nichiren gave us a mandala. It doesn't change. You don't add your own stuff or anyone else's stuff. just this Nichiren inscribed mandala. All you good men, after I've entered extinction, who can accept and uphold, read and recite this sutra. Now, in the presence of the Buddha, let him come forward and speak his vow. Who's going to take responsibility for keeping this alive, true, correct? This is the third admonition from the Buddha. He's asking the same question, but it's loaded differently, yeah? The fourth and fifth admonitions are found in the Devadatta chapter, and I will deal with them later. Over and over again in the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni is saying, who's going to be a leader here and not be dissuaded or influenced by all of these outside influences? Hold strong. Nichiren continues, the meaning of these passages from the sutra is right before our eyes, obvious as the sun suspended in the blue sky or a mole on a white face. And yet the blind ones, those with perverse eyes, the one-eyed, those who have confidence no one but their own teachers, and those who cling to biased views, they won't see it. They won't allow themselves to see it. They're stuck. For those who earnestly seek the way, in spite of all difficulties, I will try to demonstrate what these passages mean. But they must understand that the truth is more rarely met than the peaches of immorality that grow in the garden of the Queen Mother of the West, or the Adambara flower that blooms only when a wheel-turning king appears. Right? If you look up the Adambara plant, there's folklore about it being a blossom that only occurs once every 500 years. It varies depending on which folklore you're following, but the rarity is the point, yeah? Moreover, the conflict between Nichiren and the various schools surpasses the 8 years of warfare when the governor of Pei and Shang Yu battled for the empire of China. Oh, I've got aphthous ulcers on my tongue. It's causing me problems. I apologize. The 7 years when Yoritomo and Munemori fought for the island of Japan, or the islands of Japan. The struggles between Shakra and the Asuras, or between the Dragon King and the Garuda birds at Anvatapata Lake. The truth of the Lotus Sutra has made its appearance twice in the country of Japan. You should understand that it appeared once with the great teacher Dengyo, and again with Nichiren. And he's talking about himself in the third person here. Because once again, remember, Nichiren is incredibly humble about the man Nichiren. Everything about his life, his own consideration of his being, is as a vessel, a support, a transmitter of a truth, an overarching, overencompassing truth of life. Not just his, not just yours, not just mine, the entire universe, this recognition of this engine of life, far and away, is more essential to our living a liberated, full experience of life without the foibles of attachments, yeah? It's all here. We live on the planet Earth, and we can listen to all the monkey mind chatter, can even be entertaining. But the moment it takes a hold of our identity, we start to suffer. This is the whole game, ball of wax, insight of Buddhism. And it starts and ends within your mind. You can't collect enough lottery tickets to win it. Right? One more paragraph, and then he gets into question and answer, and we'll save that for the next video, okay? The truth of the Lotus Sutra has made its appearance twice in the country of Japan. You should understand that it appeared once with the great teacher Dengyo and again with Nichiren, but the sightless ones doubt this. People who just, how often have you, maybe with a parent or a friend or a child, you keep pointing out something to them that to you is blindingly obvious. But somehow, some way, there's this wall in their mind. Nope, this is what I know. This is what my so-and-so taught me. This is what, I don't get it. I won't get it. I won't let you make me, I can't, nope. You ever run into that? You know how frustrating that is, right? You know when it's most frustrating? When we noticed we've done it. Oh, man, that burns. Right? It usually happens, like my usual example about this kind of stuff is like about every 5 years as you grow older, you look back and you go, eesh, was I really that way? Was I really that stubborn, that stupid, that arrogant? Right? How many times have you looked back on your life and go, I hope nobody remembers me from back then. Oh, my. Embarrassment, right? If you don't have that experience every 5 to 10 years, you're either lying or you're really, really not looking hard enough. Because that's what we do. So, and Nichiren's pointing it out here. He's pointing it out to everyone. If you're not getting what I'm showing you, then the reason is you. Because you breathe air. Air is air, and you're breathing it. Nope. Right? It's a willful ignorance, is what he's saying. You just don't want to hear it. But the sightless ones doubt it. It is beyond my power to convince them. Yeah, because ultimately, once again, enlightenment is on you. It's on me. Only we can attain enlightenment on our own. So get to work on that mind, yeah? Shakyamuni Buddha, many treasures Buddha, and the Buddhas of the 10 directions gathered together and judged the relative merits of all the sutras of Japan, China, India, and the palace of the Dragon King, the heavens, and all the other worlds of the 10 directions. And this is the sutra that they chose. This is the truth. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Do it right now for yourself. Or, lamentably, don't. Compassion, right? The only thing keeping you from enlightenment is you. Stop. Question: do sutras such as the Flower Garland, the sutras of the correct and equal period, wisdom, profound secrets, Lankavatara, Mahavajrana, the Nirvana, belong to the 9 easy acts group of the 6 difficult acts group? Or the 6 difficult acts group? There's a Lankavatara making an appearance, by the way. We'll answer that and restate it in the next video. For now, get my fingers to work. I really appreciate your listening and your study. Mostly, it's such a simple thing. I honor your practice, your commitment, your decision to enlighten your mind, to live the fullest life you possibly can, right? While radiating the very same thing in your environment. Your practice it's everything. It's the enlightenment of all sentient beings occurring within you. Resonate with the engine of life of the entire universe right now. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. It's a very powerful practice. So I appreciate your doing that. I appreciate your liking and subscribing these videos because it helps to grow our Sangha and get the support out to more people who are struggling, trying to practice Myoho Renge Kyo and either don't know it or are being misled. We need to give them good, nurturing, yes, you can do this. You don't need all, right? This is on you. There's no cost. Just do it. In that respect, there's a lot of free information on threefoldlotus.com, as I always say. Also links to ebooks, much easier to attain all over the world. Don't have to worry about shipping and stuff. But I don't begrudge you if you like the print material, because I do. I love to have something in my hand to scratch in and so forth, right? But sometimes it's hard to be able to afford those books. Printing is getting more expensive. And shipping. Oh, my goodness. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. What else? Correct mandala. Oh, patrons. You guys. We only have a handful so far. But that handful is, you guys are critical to my keeping this going. So deeply appreciate patrons, either through Patreon or PayPal, yeah? And those of you who are buying books, same thing. That stuff is critical to keep us going. That's why also it's critical that we grow the Sangha, right? So liking and subscribing is the quickest, most influential way we can do that. Sharing. Use these things as a teaching moment. Right? There's thousands of videos, or at least a 1,000 videos so far. So do a search on the homepage. Find something. Somebody keeps asking you about karma. Maybe you're not ready to talk to them about it. First of all, chant. Right? At least get them to chant. Sing these words. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Okay, I'll send you something. If you're curious, please come talk to me about it. We'll chant some more and we'll talk about it, right? Always Daimoku first. Anyway, I'm going on and on. I just really, really, really want you to succeed. If you don't succeed, what's the point of doing all of this, right? So, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Please succeed. And I'll see you in the next video. And I'll try once again I'll share with you insights I have. Hopefully they'll trigger insights in you, and that's how the Sangha works, yeah? In the meantime, take care of that health of yours. Stay secure. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.